what I kept doing though, and I want to tell you what saved me while I was still, drinking a little bit here and there, is I submerged myself in every 3 days I was going to therapy, learning
Mm,
cognitive behavioral therapy, learning dialectical behavior, learning EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing,
mm,
having transcranial magnetic stimulation. So all of these things, all of these healing modalities were still entering my life, and I was
mm.
eager.
Her work explores healing from religious rejection, shame, addiction, and identity wounds through the lens of unconditional love and spiritual awakening. Drawing from lived experience rather than doctrine, Fenix speaks openly about the intersection of trauma, faith, the LGBTQ plus identity, recovery, and personal transformation. Her perspective resonates with people searching for a more compassionate and authentic relationship with themselves and with God beyond traditional religious structures. I'm very excited to talk to you. Welcome, Fenix.
Oh, thank you, Kat. Thank you so much.
Did I
So
miss
was
anything? Is there anything you wanted to add to your bio that we didn't get to?
no, but can I just say something about the
Yeah.
unconventional counselor? The reason why I call myself that, even though I'm just a practitioner,
Hmm.
is because I heal traumatic memories the unconventional way. I use specific techniques such as havening techniques, neurolinguistics programming,
Okay.
specifically for traumatic events to help erase or desensitize memories. And the best part about it, just to say it, no
Mhm.
one ever has to tell me their trauma. All they have to do is say, Finex, can you just help me erase this memory because it's intruding in my mind, and I want to clear that. And I'm like, let's clear it. So that's why I call myself the unconventional counselor. It's not about talk therapy, but I do promote talk therapy in my book and in my life, in my own life. So yeah, absolutely. So that's why I call
No,
myself.
no, thank you, because I have heard a little bit about havening. Um, it's relatively new to me, and I do want to hear more about that because I think there's definitely a space for it.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's definitely a space for that, especially without having to talk about the trauma, which a lot of people do not want to specifically do. Nor do I think it's good sometimes to just keep bringing it up.
I agree. Sometimes like there was some things that I had done in my childhood that
Hmm.
I wish to this day I had never done it.
Hmm.
And I never talked about it in therapy because I was so ashamed of it.
Yeah.
So when I learned havening, I said, you know what? I'm going to haven this the heck out of this, out of myself. And I havened it so much to where I erased it, and it doesn't bother me. Like even though I had
Yeah.
healed myself, and we'll talk about that, they would
Right.
still intrude. Like I could be eating dinner and boom, right there, like, hey, you remember the shameful moment you did? And I was like, I still love myself. I'm still forgiving myself. But man, I erased it, and it's freedom. It's freedom.
Yeah.
I didn't have to tell a single soul. I just did it to myself. And so
Yeah.
that's yeah. So I do that for
And
others.
that's powerful when you don't have to completely relive everything.
Never. You never do.
Now your story, I was reading a little bit about your book. Your book did just come out. It did just come out. And I was wondering now there's a lot in the book. And I'm wondering if you could kind of talk about your journey a little bit to this book.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I talk about in this book, it's a spiritual memoir. I left home at 14 years old. I was born gay, didn't know what being gay meant, didn't know anything. I was a kid, and I had written this little love letter to a girl, and I had been walking her home every day for 2 weeks, and I had a crush. I had a crush on her, and I wrote her this letter. Will you be my girlfriend? And of course, she gave it to her dad. She's like, Dad,
Oh.
Dad, I don't think this is normal. And her dad called my father,
Mm.
and my father picked the phone, and this man said, Look, I think you just need to address this with your daughter. He wasn't upset. He wasn't upset. But when my father hung up the phone, he was upset. And
Yes.
he ended up calling me as a little child, a sicko lesbian. And he's like, "You're a sicko lesbian," and I was just like, my dad is calling me a sicko. Like, I need to die. Like, if the one man that I respect and honor that I'm looking at him, no, I cannot live. I cannot live. And so I
Mm,
attempted suicide twice, almost died, almost died. But I
wow.
didn't. And because I didn't, I realized, no, I just need to leave home. And it was
Yeah.
at 6 in the morning, this is the beginning of the book, 5:59 a.m. in the morning. I'm just waiting for the clock to turn 6, pull the blankets off of me, grab my heap of clothes. And I had already planned on a friend who had a car to come and get me. He was older than me, to come and
Mm,
get me. I was 14 years old. And of course, my parents walked out. They heard the shuffling in the room and they're like, "What, are you leaving?" I mean, I was 14 years old and I was pretty much shaking my head like, yeah.
yeah.
And they were like, "Okay." And they closed the door, went back to bed, and I began a life of addiction, alcoholism, sexual abuse, poverty, homelessness, uh, drugs like you could not believe, a life of misery from the age of 14 to the age of 30. And
Wow.
I'm turning 50 in July. So
Mm,
at that age, I had to experience that much cycling of traumatic events that continued to happen through that long of a journey for me. I ended up living what my father said I was. I ended up living the life of that sicko. And it was like, it
mm.
was the hardest thing I had to go through. But I went through it and I'm grateful I came out 1,000 times happier and joyful. And we'll talk about that. But yes, yeah.
I'm happy that you're here.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I'm happy that you're here. And what was it like? I mean, the first question that comes to mind, how old were you again when you wrote the note to that young girl?
So, yeah, I had just turned 14 years old. So
Just turned 14.
I was
What
still,
was it what was it like for 14-year-old Fenix? I mean, that's a big time in any teenage girl's life. But what was it like when your father said that to you? Like, what was that moment like for that young version of you to hear? Like, you're trying to figure yourself out. You're trying to understand your sexuality. Like, this is all new to you. Like, you're still exploring. What was it like in that moment to like not be met with love and concern or acceptance or any of that?
yeah, a lot of shame, self-shame. Reason being is a couple years prior, I had already been I was getting molested through a different, not my parents.
Mm,
Before I even continue, I want to say this. I have the most incredible relationship with my mom and dad. Like I was even on the phone with them yesterday. I love you. I love you too. We've forgiven each other. It's all good. But back then, I have a twin. I'm a twin. And I had
mm,
my twin brother, and we were both born gay, by the way. So it wasn't a choice. So I have my
right.
twin brother sitting right across from me. I have my sister, who's a year and a half, sitting right there, and then my father, at the edge of the table. And when he said that, I peered up and to look at them, and their heads, man, they felt the sadness. They were mirroring the sadness and the pain that had just struck me.
Mhm.
And then I was visually able to see how much of pain that just caused me, because they were showing me, they were mirroring what I was feeling. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, oh, like it was no longer Phoenix wanting to live. I
yeah,
no longer. And I'll tell you what I ended up doing that week. So I ended up consuming 70 pills of Motrin and Tylenol together. I was chugging them down. This was about 4 o'clock. It's in my book. This is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And by 8 o'clock, I said, Phoenix, shower, put on your pajamas, and you will never have to wake up again, Phoenix. You will never have to wake up again. So I went to bed believing I was getting ready to die. Like it was
yeah.
imminent for me. And the fact that I woke up at 11 o'clock needing to hurl all this out and having to be taken to the hospital. Yeah, no, I survived it, but man, that was a miserable moment. And to know that there was still no compassion even in those
Mm,
moments. It was more of they were angry at the fact that they thought that I was overreacting. Like, she is uncontrollable. She doesn't know what is wrong with
yeah,
my kid, instead of saying, what did I do, or what is happening with Fenix that is causing her to behave in this manner? It wasn't a thought in their process at that time. They were just running
Yeah.
on fumes. Like, my daughter's trying to kill herself. I don't know why. She's being very dramatic. Um, and
Yeah.
what's happening? It was a very strange moment. It was a strange experience. I won't lie.
They hadn't put the pieces together. This was equally as challenging for you
Yeah.
as it was for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And was where because did you where I'm curious, where did you grow up in the church with faith, or did your faith come after
Yeah.
after all these experiences?
I remember my dad, when we were little baby kids, maybe he did this a couple times. He would sit us down on the couch. He would pull up a chair and he'd start reading the Bible like hard. And I was just like, what is that? Like, get that away from me? But it wasn't until I was 21 years old. This was the first time I called out to God. I was 21 years old. I had gotten in a fight with my girlfriend, and I walked to the beach. It was about 11:30 at night, and I was sitting on a bench overlooking the ocean, and I said, God, if you're real, help me. And don't you know, he ended up saving my life within minutes because I was getting ready to be attacked and I didn't know it. I was just in reverence, like, help me. Like, I need love. Like, that's what I was calling out for, but not
Yeah,
recognizing that he was about to save me from a predator that was getting
yeah,
ready to kidnap me and possibly murder me. That it was 11 o'clock at night. No one was out. I was easy prey. And
yeah,
so, yeah, he saved my life that night. And ever since then, he started doing things like that in my life to protect me and to lead
mm,
me towards him. Like, every step he was doing, he's like, she doesn't know me. She's afraid of me, but I'm going to save her in every instance until we are ready to have these conversations. And my
mm,
book, Loved Unconditional, it has every conversation that I've ever had with God.
mm,
And it aligns up with scripture, to tell you the truth. So the fact that I never had to read the Bible while I
mm,
was developing a relationship with God, because I was so afraid of the Bible, I was so scared of
yeah,
it, that he realized, he's like, no, I have to come to her, at her level, which is,
yeah,
she's broken, she is afraid. And so I need to nurture this relationship before I'm going to ask her to start looking into scripture. So he did that first
yeah,
day. In every conversation I had, that not only tells you hey, Fenix, you're in danger, get up. And then it explains, hey, like, he saved my life this time. Hey, Fenix, no, I need you to go in this direction, and why he would have me go. This whole book
yeah.
explains every single detail of my relationship with God. So what people can be like, I want that relationship with God. Like, I want what she has. And I tell you, it's already available for you right now.
And I think that's powerful because if I'm hearing you correctly, your spiritual relationship began more of almost like a parenting relationship with God versus the Bible, the religious, denominational type of relationship.
Yeah, he calls me by name. He calls me Fenexita. He's the only one who's ever done that. My Fenexita, my beloved. He calls me his beloved. And I'm just like, who are you? Like, I was like, well, can I call you Father or Abba? Because I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
know of the New Testament where they're like Father. And he's like, yes, I'm your Father. I'm your Abba, and you're my Fenexita. And I was just like, I'm in love. Like, I'm in love. I fell in love. We fell in love.
And that's beautiful because it's beautiful to hear for a lot of reasons. One, um, especially being a member of the LGBTQ community, so many are, I myself included, was because I went to Catholic school. Um, and that can be terrifying,
Yes.
because it's just not something that you speak about. And I think it leaves, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it leaves a sizable hole in a human being for not only like connection to something outside of themselves, but like a big hole for like shame to come in.
Oh, yes, yes. Another reason why he had me write this book is because one of the techniques that I'm going to always ask my clients to do is, hey, if you want to talk to God, one of the ways you can begin to talk to God, if you're, I'm going to say before I even say that, there's two type of people that I can only recognize.
Mm,
One is that they can hear God. There's a lot of people on social media saying, I hear the Lord and I have a prophetic word, and they go and record it and
yeah.
they post it. And there's others that are like, oh, how do you hear God? I don't hear God. Well, those of you who don't, my suggestion is do this. Get a pen, not type, get a pen and a piece of paper and
Mm,
start with, Dear God, I want to ask a question. Da, 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 da. Whatever that question is, write it out and then say it. And then close your eyes, put your hand on your heart and say, Lord, I'm ready to hear you. And then whatever you hear, even though it might sound like your voice, I promise you it is not. Write it down. Write it
yeah.
down. And that's going to be your beginning relationship and conversations with God.
Mm,
Absolutely. Second thing I wanted to say is he asked me to write this book because he says his children, when me and him talk about gay people, he's like, my children, and we were talking about gay people specifically. He's like, my
mm,
children have been hurt with religion. For next, I'm sending you to go fix this for me. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, so we need to clarify what scripture is, Lord. And I was like, you have to teach me. And he's like, I'm going to teach you everything. And in here, I put in all the scriptures that have harmed us, but then he tells me, I want you to clarify with this, which it still does align with the Greek and Hebrew words. So he taught me a lot of this to heal that aspect that should have never been in there in the first place. So for all
Yeah.
of your gay listeners, pick up this book. It's meant for you. It's meant for the veteran. It's meant for the divorced person. It's meant for the drug addict, the shame, those who straight and gay who have experienced church hurt. This book is meant for all walks of life, but of course, it's also meant for the LGBTQ community as well. It
Yeah,
is
church hurt is I like that term. Is very real for a lot of people, you know.
all walks
A
of
lot
life.
of yeah, it's very real for, the addict, for for so many homeless, for so many that are, feel they aren't welcomed back into they aren't welcome near God. Like God isn't available to them.
Right.
That God isn't for them, that they're not like special enough or loved enough to be in the presence of God.
Oh,
And
everybody has the opportunity to come to God. Many are called, few are chosen. The question is, are you willing to choose yourself?
yeah,
Choose yourself to go to God. Choose yourself. For if you never want to read the Bible, I'm going to say this, and some people might disagree with me. Oh, that shame on Fenix. You don't have to. You don't have to.
yeah,
But what I would ask you to do is forgive everybody. If you need to hire someone like me or seek a therapist, because I am a spiritual coach and I want to heal every aspect of that church hurt for people. Go through these programs with me, and what we're going to do is we're going to reveal everything that has not been truth, that has been misrepresented or misunderstood or told in a manner that created a sacred weapon, which they use the Bible as a sacred weapon when God's like,
yeah,
this is not meant to be that. It's meant to be love. And
yeah,
that's what I want to help people understand, and just to give them that healing and that broad perspective of saying, oh, God's for everyone. God is for everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's important because and whatever religion that you specifically belong to, that's a personal choice. But sometimes it can be very scary for some people to walk into a church and to be either member of the LGBTQ community or for whatever reason, veteran, homeless, abused, whatever. And it's important to know that you can find God outside of an actual building.
Yes. So one of the things that in one of my chapters, I think it's in, God showed me about the cross. One of these chapters, I talk about God in the cabin. God blew out my candles. He did all this. He showed himself in a very specific, like it was my burning bush moment. That's what I call. And he
Hmm.
said three things to me: rebuild my church, leave a legacy for me in your name, and then of course he promised me a new wife. I've been divorced 6 years and I was married for 15. And it's in my story. Either which way, he's like, "Hey, I have a wife for you. Rebuild my church, leave a legacy for me in your name." And I was like, "What does that mean? Like, do I have to go buy a church?" And he's like, "No, you are the church." He goes, "Nobody needs to go into a physical building." He goes, "Go within. I am within you, and I'm
Yeah.
all around you." He's like, "Go within, Phoenix." He goes, "Remind people. Imagine." That when the time of the disciples, what they would do, they would go
Mhm.
into each other's little homes, light some, of
Mhm.
course, they'll have candles, light your
Mhm.
candles, and
Mhm.
they would talk about God. They would communicate. They would have conversations, and they would say, "Hey, look, you know what? This is how to live a righteous life. This is how to live a good life. This is how we need to forgive. This is how we need to love." And so they would teach each other all of the teachings of Jesus, which was of love and repentance and forgiveness and being wanting to be a better person and learning how not to react. That's what God calls church, not
Mhm.
a physical building. So anyone who's listening who's like, "I'm afraid to go to church," great. I don't go to church either, guys. I am the church. I am a church. So when I have like my communion, I'm getting ready to start creating what I call the Phoenix Way workshops for groups of people. Man,
Mhm.
I'm going to invite others who are spiritual scholars to come and help educate us on like scripture. Because am I the best?
Yeah.
No, no. I'm just a witness. I'm just a testimony and a witness for God. I'm not the proficient person in the Bible. I won't lie about that.
Yeah.
It's just more personal. It's a personal relationship with my father that I need a dad, and he's my dad. He's my papa. So yeah.
No, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful that you could find that. And I'm curious, what was what was the breaking point for you? I don't want to say like as far as like when you're in your addiction, you were homeless, was there just a moment of just exhaustion, or was there like a spiritual awakening that happened?
Right. So the spiritual awakening didn't happen years until 2017, but all of my conversations with God started to form. But I was still an addict. I
Mm.
was still a drunk because I was still going through a lot of things. So God had to stay with me through my whole journey of healing. But it wasn't until I turned 30 years old. It was my final time that I was arrested. It was the last time that I was arrested. I woke up at 7 a.m., pouring my whiskey, getting drunk. I'm going to say a couple hours later, I was blacked out,
Hmm.
completely blacked out, enraged, suffering from psychosis, paranoia, hypervigilance, anger, rage, emotional outbursts. And I had destroyed literally everything in my home. There was nothing that was standing. And of course, my then wife, who I was married to for 15 years, came home. And apparently, in my blackout, she was trying to get my attention. And I turned around, bah, not, I'm blacked out. And I had hurt her.
Yeah.
Well, I finally had to scream my way out to finally wake up. And I was like, "Oh, what happened?" And then I see her on the floor and I was like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And I help her up and she's like, "You attacked me." I was like, "What? Where are you? Where?" And she's like, "The cops are on their way." So I ran downstairs and I opened the door and I put my hands behind my back and I put myself on my knees and I said, "I need to be arrested right now." And it was in the
Yeah.
jail cell where this African American correctional officer, apparently my ex-wife had called the jail cell. And so she walks up to me and she's like, "I just got off the phone with your partner." She's told me everything that has happened to you since you've been a child. She goes, "Don't you think it's time to heal? Don't you think you deserve it?" She's like, "I want you to leave here tomorrow and go to inpatient." And I was like, I can heal? Like my life can be
Mm.
different? And she's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Follow me." I had vomited all over myself. I was bad drunk. And she was helping me wipe myself off. And she opened up a jail cell just for me, gave me a pillow and a blanket, but she didn't have to. She could have just left me in cuffs.
Mm.
But she was so kind. She's like, "Get some rest and I'll see you in the morning."
Mm.
And in the morning, she's like, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to detox." And I did.
Mm.
I went home, cleaned up everything. I needed to spend a couple hours cleaning that place up because I had destroyed it. And I submitted myself into a 90-day inpatient treatment program. And that's where my healing started to begin. And that was in 2010 when I
Mm.
had turned 30 years old.
And that's powerful. That's powerful because I think sometimes when people see the behaviors like you were exhibiting, like addiction and the outbursts and the dysregulation, they see the behaviors. They don't necessarily understand that that came from some sort of trauma or wound or abuse. They just see you're an addict, you're this, you're that. They don't understand that it's a symptom of something deeper.
Yes.
And so what was it like in that moment when that correctional officer like kind of reached a hand out to you and said there's something more for you?
She planted a seed of hope. That was the first person, even though I had a significant other, she allowed me to drink. So we were both
Yeah,
drinking. So it was already a toxic relationship, but it was
yeah,
this woman in a uniform who was a correctional officer, a form of a police officer, but for the jails, telling me, no, I need you to go heal. Don't you think you deserve it? I want you to live a different life. And now I'm about to plant the seed of hope. So when you leave here, what are you going to do for next? I'm going to go to the VA as a veteran. I'm going to go and admit myself. And so what I did when I drove to the VA after I cleaned up the disastrous mess is I walk up to the counter and I said, look, one of two things are going to happen right now. I was like, number one, you're going to admit me into your inpatient treatment program. But if you say you don't have a bed, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run out of this building, run down the street, and run onto the freeway because the freeway was right there. And I said, I'm going to allow one of those cars to hit me because I'm tired of living. I'm tired. And they didn't have a bed. They're like, we have a bed for you, Miss Shepherd. We have a bed for you. Knowing he was lying to me. He's like, but he was trained to do this. Like,
yeah,
stay right here. And not only did he say stay right here, he called the police, which was downstairs on the first floor, the VA police, to monitor me to make sure I did not leave because they knew right
yeah,
then and there they were responsible for my well-being in my life. So they had to call the police to monitor me. And then they had to find a bed outside in the city, somewhere where they were like, we're willing to pay for this veteran who needs our support and our biggest help right now. And God bless the VA. God bless the VA. Thank you. Thank you, all of them. I'm so grateful for them because it changed my life.
well, I'm happy that they, it sounds like they made a space for
They
you
made a
know,
space for me.
and I'm happy that they did that because it's so often you hear overcrowding, just go somewhere else when there often isn't somewhere else to go,
Right.
and you're too exhausted mentally. It probably took everything you had to get there. And I think
Yes.
sometimes people forget that when you're in that mode, when you're like at your lowest, it's not easy to put these pieces together and where to go.
Right.
And that's, I mean, I think that's a huge step that you went there and you're like, listen, we got two options, like that's it. This is where I'm at.
This is where I'm at. And I wasn't lying. I
Yeah.
knew. I was like, if they don't have a bed for me, I'm not going home. I
Yeah.
knew that I would have ended my life.
And they probably sensed the crisis in you
Yeah.
and the desperation of we have to help this person because they're kind of they're not kind of, they are at the end of their rope.
Yes. Yeah.
And what was the journey to sobriety like for you once you got into that facility, once you started to get detoxed?
Whew. I remember I would run in the middle because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because I was detoxing. So
Mhm.
I would run around the building inside. They wouldn't let me out.
I wonder why.
I love like, yeah, no, you ain't going anywhere,
Oh,
chick.
no, 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 no.
So I would run in the building, and while I'm running, I'm wailing, oh my God, I need you. And I would keep running. Oh. So I remember like it was such a detox. It was such a
Mm,
detox. And then I'd spent the next 60 days, and they called this the Veteran Village of San Diego when I was living in San Diego, California. That's where I'm from.
mm,
And so they would, it was more of a military style rehab. However,
mm,
once I got out of those 60 days, I would be a liar to say that I didn't, for a little bit, pick up drinking, or it was still minimal. I had went from being a raging drunk to just saying, okay, I still want to have a beer here or there or two, or something like that. And
yeah.
did I end up eventually quitting completely cold turkey. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm
Yeah.
starting to ask God, like, hey, I know that I can enjoy a little scotch or a little beer, but God, I know you have a bigger plan for me and I can't do it. I can't do this by myself. Will you help
No.
me? And so I said, God, I give this to you. And then I said, if you just take the craving away, I'll never pick up. So it took a couple of years, even after, for me to officially really stop drinking. And when I had made that prayer, boom, the next morning, there was no more craving and I never picked up again. And that's going to say, I think it's been 9 years. So granted, even though this was in 2010, I could drink a beer and put it away. I could drink a beer and
Yeah.
just not pick up another. But I kept understanding God was like, I need you completely sober. I need you completely
Yeah.
sober. And I finally was like, well, then I'm going through a divorce, God, and I'm going to need your help. Like, if you take this from me, I'll give this to you. Boom. And it was like done and done. We made a negotiation and he
Yeah.
handled it for me.
And that's a lot going on at once.
But I
That's
stayed
not
sober.
like
But I
it's
stayed sober through it. I stayed sober
that's
through it.
and that's powerful because and I think it's important because you highlighted something that I think is important is that you didn't fail because you didn't stay sober the second you got out of that facility. Like because I don't love the term relapse, but for lack of a better word, you know, relapse doesn't mean that you failed. It just
Right.
means that you're learning.
Yes.
It's like you don't lose your sobriety. You don't lose what you've learned, you know, based on if you go to A or not. Like your date changes, you know what I mean? Like you don't
Yeah.
you don't lose everything that you gained by that slip up.
Right. What I kept doing though, and I want to tell you what saved me while I was still, drinking a little bit here and there, is I submerged myself in every 3 days I was going to therapy, learning
Mm,
cognitive behavioral therapy, learning dialectical behavior, learning EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing,
mm,
having transcranial magnetic stimulation. So all of these things, all of these healing modalities were still entering my life and I was
mm,
eager to learn. I was like, wait, I can change my thoughts like this bad thought to a positive thought. I'm in. Oh, I can learn how to control my emotions and talk to my then wife really good. Or I can talk to friends better, or I can just never learn to react. Teach me that. Like I was the yes woman. Like they're like,
mm,
hey, Phoenix, do you want to go to this military sexual trauma group? Yes, I'll go. Hey, Phoenix, do you want to do another round of cognitive behavioral therapy? I'll take it. Hey, Phoenix, we have this little spiritual group down at the little chaplain center to learn meditation. Do you want to do that? Yes. I stopped working and I submitted myself, committed my life to finding every way to heal. So that's what I'm saying. So I would drink a beer and be like, all right, no, I gotta go to CBT. Like I'm done with alcohol. I was so focused on this, but because I had a wife then who still enjoyed beer and who still enjoyed a little scotch, unfortunately, that did have that effect. So once I really started to hone in on my spirituality with I'm gonna say
mm,
Christ for me, that's when
mm.
he was like, hey, Phoenix, I'm going to show you something. And I was like, okay, God, what are you going to show me? And he's like, your wife has been having an affair. And boom, he played the whole movie of a 2 year affair. And I was like, oh, God. And he goes, you're about to go through a divorce, but I want you sober through this. And I was like, yeah, I'm about, yeah. And so that's when I made that prayer in between that time. And I went through a divorce completely sober, knowing cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, EMDR. So I even have my own machine. Do I even have
Mm,
a machine? Yeah. If I have clients here in person, I will use my eye movement desensitization and
mm,
processing machine on myself. It also helps to erase traumatic memories. I also use that
mm.
in addition to other things. But, so I was using my own machine on myself, healing myself while I knew that I was getting ready to go through a really painful divorce and go through the lies and go through whatever she had to go through. I was going to endure with patience and grace
Yeah.
and forgiveness and say, you know what? I know you're doing this. God showed me. Um, Peace be with you, ma'am. Like we no longer can have a marriage. Like we're going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
did, but I did it sober. And man, the blessings that I received from that was a peace that never ceases, a joy that overflows. Imagine a river that doesn't stop. That is what God had instilled in me while I was going through this divorce, using my skills, using everything I learned. And he was like, I got you. I got you, my girl. I got you, my beloved. I got you, my Fenix. He's like, just stay with me. I know you're hurting. And I would be like, God, I'm crying through this. And he's like, and I'm going to hold you through this. And he did. Oh, God, did he? And then he had me leave San Diego. And I've been, 8 years traveling the world. No, sorry, the United States, let's be more realistic. Traveling, experiencing new opportunities, making new friendships, still being single because I wanted to stay single.
Right.
But now I'm like, you know what? God 8 years ago had promised me a wife, and I wasn't ready for her. I had to heal
Yeah.
from a 15-year marriage. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what, Lord? I'm ready. He's like, oh, then this year you're going to meet her. And I was like, like, I'm a cutie. I'm a cutie. I'm a cutie. He doesn't react and has all of these great love. I have so much love to give. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for next. It's time. So, you know what? I think through my work or through my speaking opportunities, through traveling, promoting loved unconditional, dude, I'm like, yeah, she's gonna meet me. We're gonna find each other. I'm
Yeah.
not even tripping. Like, I'm like, baby, you gotta have to find me because I'm busy serving the Lord right now, but come find me, girl.
And let me just add, going through divorce sober is not as easy as it may sound, even if it is the right thing to do, even if it is your calling, it does not make it easy in any way, because that's a lot of entanglement there. That's a lot of history, that's a lot of love, that's a lot of pain, that's a lot of grief. So that's huge that you were able to go through that chapter in your life with sober. That's
Yeah.
that's remarkable. Um,
Oh, it was
because
God's
that can
grace.
trip a lot of people up. They can be sober for years and they can get a divorce, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, no, the reason why I believe I stuck through it, not only had God already, it's in my book, he himself blessed me with the Holy Spirit. Not only did he had done that right before he was he so the fair apparently the affair was already happening and he had blessed me himself, like he blew his spirit in it. You got to read the book. It's such a good story. God, it's a
I'm going
powerful
to.
book. Oh, get a girlfriend. So I knew that I already had his strength. Like there's something when people get filled with the Spirit of God, it is a power, like an internal power that you have such strength and endurance. That's when he's like, I will give you my yoke. I will give you my strength. I will give you my spirit. And I'm like, oh, I understand why he's saying that, like, you're going to be stronger because I'm in you. And I'm like, yeah. And that's how I was able to stay sober and calm through the lies, calm through the pain that I had to go through and say, you know what, peace be with you. I know we were together
Yeah,
for 15 years and that was a long time. I,
yeah.
I forgive you, you forgive me. Um, and I never want to speak to you again. And peace be with you. Like, go live your life, go have a good life, be married, go get kids, anything you want. But I'm checking out.
I'm that way.
I'm going that way with
I'm
Jesus.
going
I'm
that
going
way.
that way. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful way to do things, because it's not, more often than not, divorces can be cantankerous and just quite ugly all around. So the
Yeah.
fact that you could do it, let go with love and gratitude for what you two did share is,
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful, and it made it probably easier for you as well as your now ex-wife.
Yes.
And at what point in your journey after the divorce did you start to go down this coaching path? When did you decide that this is my next step?
Yeah. So when it was during COVID that God had said, "Hey, Fenix, I want you to do something for me." And I said, "Tell me, Lord, what do you want?" He was like, I want you to sell your, I had a pet product company called Marley's Planet.
Mm,
I was selling CBD dog beers and CBD beverages and all this cool stuff. I was a chef for 18 years, so I knew how to produce a lot of food products and I created it
mm.
for animals. And he's like, hey, he's like, it's COVID, sell your business. And I was like, okay.
Huh?
So I sold my business. Then he's like, hey, Fenix, delete your social media. And I was like, delete, 15 years. He's like, don't deactivate, delete. And I was like, delete. Okay. So then he's like, now that you're completely free, he sent me to Colorado, Denver, Colorado Springs first, and then Denver. And it was in
Mhm,
Colorado Springs where I hooked up with the National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI.
mhm,
And I had gone there. I was like, hey, I want to volunteer. This is before I wanted to take some time for myself. I was like, I want to volunteer. And they're like, oh, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a speaker and I'm kind of a coach. And I was kind of making it up. I was like, I'm a kind of a coach. I don't know. I have to help people. And they're like, oh, well, we'll train you how to be a speaker for us. We'll train you how to be a coach for us. So I started coaching small groups who were suffering from mental illness and addiction.
mhm.
And I started to share my story with them. And then I started to teach them all the modalities that I was doing. But then they were like, hey, Finex, will you come speak to the police department for us? And they're like, tell
Mm,
them your story, like all the times you were arrested, all the times they were kind of hard, maybe what they can do different. So every 3 months, I would go and give presentations and speeches to all the police departments and go and be like, look, when someone is acting this way, maybe there's a reason behind it. So instead of
yeah,
just being hard and be like, no, you're going to jail, be like, look, can we sit down and talk? Or
yeah,
maybe here's the NAMI card. Can you call this? Can we drive you to the office to NAMI instead of get you arrested? And then I'd be like, yeah, bring them over here. Like, bring them over here. So God was already preparing me for this type of work. So then when I went to Denver a year later, God was like, hey, it's time to move to Denver. And I was like, okay. I was like, where am I going to get this job? And I ended up finding this job working with the police department as a peer support specialist, as a clinical first responder with the Denver Police Department. And for two
mm,
solid years, 10-hour days, I would drive with them and we would go in tunnels. We would go to abandoned buildings. We would go through the trenches and find homeless people, people that were drugged up, needles all around, all this filth and poo poo. And I would come to them, I'd be like, oh my God, I could see myself in them. And I was like, they need God. They need God.
mm,
And I was like, not only do they need God, they need addiction help, and I was like, okay.
yeah.
And so they're like, the next, since we don't want to arrest them because you're with us, go and do your job. And I was like, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got
So
it.
for 2 years, I would go and I would help these homeless people who were addicts, who were suffering. And to tell you, the stories were the same. I was shamed as a kid. I was church hurt. It was, I moved out when I was a kid. I was molested as a child. I was raped. And I was like,
Yeah,
it's all in this book. I was all of that. And all of that happened to me too. And I was like, can we pray together? And they're like, yes. Yes. And I was like, all right, let's go and pray, guys. Come on, let's pray together. So we would pray together. And then I would say, let me help you. I'm going to go to them, to the officers, so they don't arrest you. You just tell them you want to work with me, and I'm going to put you in a hotel and I'm going to get you sober. And they're like, really? And I was like, yeah, let's do it right now. They're like, let me grab my things. And I was like, grab your things.
mm,
Let's get out of here. So I would go to the officers and I'd be like, hey, I need to go to a detox center. I need you to drive me and my now client to a detox center. Let's get him in the hospital. Let's get him help. And then I would go into the city and I'd be like, I need a voucher for 2 years. And I would be their coach. So then I would teach them havening techniques. I would do the
mm,
neuro linguistics programming. And then I would also work with their counselors. I would work with people. So I was like, I'm really good at this. I was like, I think this is what God wants me to do.
yeah.
2 years into it, I burnt out. And then I went back to God and I said, Lord, I love you. I said, I'm so burnt out. I was like, I can't keep doing this. And he's like, okay. He's like, hold on. I'll have you collect unemployment. And I was like, dude, you're about to get me fired, Papa. And he's like, just wait. A couple months later, the city called the grant. So instead of
Mm,
getting me fired, he pulled the grant And then
Right.
my job was like, hey, you can either collect unemployment or you can apply for a different position. And I said, you know what? I'm going to collect unemployment, just like
Yeah.
God said. And then I'm moving to Houston, Texas, and I'm going to start my life here. And because I was too tired of the cold. I mean, 9 months of
Yeah.
winter, I was like, I can't do this, Finex. I
That's a
wanted
bit
to go.
much.
Yeah, it was a bit much. So here I am. For the 6 months while I had collected unemployment, I became a personal trainer because I love being fit. I love being fit. I wrote my book and I said, you know what? I'm all of these things. I'm a practitioner for evening. I'm a practitioner for neo-linguistics program. I'm a state and nationally peer support specialist. I said, Finex, go and do your own business. Go and do this for people. And so I was like, you know what? This is what God's calling me to do. And now it's time. And now we're here. And now we're doing it.
And I wanna, there's something else that you do, which I think is pretty cool. You're a licensed wedding officiant.
Yes.
Yes. I was like, you have something where it says, and I love this, travel anywhere, no ceremony is too far from home. And there's, and I was like, that's so, and it's religious, spiritual, secular, or whatever the, could you touch a little bit on that?
I believe because I'm also a relationship coach and a spiritual coach. So because I've learned through my past what not to do in a marriage, and because I use cognitive skills, dialectical skills, how to never react, teach people methods on how to communicate and keep love alive. Because I look in the mirror and every day I say to myself, Finex, I would marry a woman like you. Like, I love you so much. I just would want you to have longer hair for next. I'm like, I would want a woman with long hair. And I was like, I would marry you, girl. And I was like, man, you're gonna make someone so happy. But during my travels, when God had sent me out to travel the US, it's in my book. One of my friends was like, hey, Finex, are you a wedding officiant? I was like, I can be. And they're like, come and marry me while you're traveling the US. And I was like, where are you at? She's like, I'm in Tennessee or something. I was like, send me your address. I Googled Universal Life Church officiate, and I was like, hey, I'm Reverend Finex, and I'm gonna come marry you. And I made sure I took a whole white outfit. My little dog, my Marley, my dog, she's in my book, by the way. She wore her
Oh,
little white t-shirt that and put her little gold thing on. I was like, my mom
oh,
was a single hottie lesbian with her little
oh,
t-shirt. And together we married this couple. And I believe in the sanctity of marriage. I know that, a lot of people are like, I don't want to get married. I'm like, why not? If you can communicate effectively and share each other's love language and know how to bring a holy union together that is in love, man, I want to be a part of that. I want to marry
yeah.
you.
I love that because I think it's, I mean, you wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
You're an author, a coach. A coach is putting it like I think mildly,
Yeah.
but you coaching with couples and one-on-one. You've owned your own business beforehand. You're a licensed wedding officiant.
Mhm.
You do the fitness thing now too. You're like, and you're all these places doing all these things, helping all these people. You know, looking back at where this all started when you were 14 years old as a scared young girl, like running and just angry and just going down a really dangerous path. What would you say to the young Fenix if what would you say to her?
I would, the strange thing that you're even asking this, because no one has asked me this on any podcast yet. And I took myself to that little girl and I had said, I wonder what did little Finex want to be? And to tell you the truth, she had no clue. She she was so depressed and so filled with shame and trauma that I don't think she saw. I remember saying I wouldn't live past 30. And that
Yeah,
was then. But I would tell her today, Fenixita, just like what God calls me, Fenixita.
I love
I want you to know something, baby. You are going to be one of the most honored, well respected, loved cutie pies ever.
that.
Happy, joyful. fit person at 50 with abs and a J-Lo ass. Like you're gonna be amazing. Like I promise you, just endure the pain because you know what? It's going to teach you. It's
Yeah,
going to teach you, and you're going to be able to heal so many people. It's going to transform you, Phoenix. You're the Spanish Phoenix. That's what Phoenix means, the Spanish Phoenix. And to tell you, God gave me that name. So you're going to be this beautiful Spanish Phoenix, transforming the lives of others. So you know what? Go through what you're about to go through because if you don't do this, Phoenixita, you're not going to be able to be the Phoenix you are today. So
yeah,
it's okay because you're going to survive. You're not only going to survive, you're going to thrive with joy that never ceases, a peace that is undescribable. Like I wake up happy and I go to bed happy. Like I don't have
yeah.
angry days. Like I'm just like this so
No,
chill people all day long. They're like, you're you're high energy. And I'm like, no, man, I'm just happy, yo. Like
yeah.
and then I exude that off to them. And that's when I get that love back in return. They're like, nah, you're cool as shit, girl. You're cool as shit. And I'm like, you're cool as shit. Like,
Oh no,
be
well, I think part of it, the feeling that I'm getting from you is that, you've been through your share of hardship and trauma and addiction and abuse and shame and guilt and just a whole bunch of heavy, heavy things. And so I feel like when I speak to you, there's a huge sense of gratitude, A, that you're still here,
oh
and B, that all that you went through is being put into a bigger purpose.
yeah.
That's the feeling that I get from you. And like, and of course you're gonna have bad days. You're still a human being, but in comparison to where your life was, it's probably, levels better than it was. I can't even
Oh man.
imagine a couple of
Yeah.
decades ago, like what it was.
Oh yeah, from down here to up here. And you're right. Are there days where sometimes I cry? Of course. Are there
Yeah,
days where I'm sometimes like, oh man, I could have done better? Of course. And then you know
yeah,
what I say to myself? Finex, give yourself grace. What
yeah,
can you learn from this? Because I always take accountability for my actions, my behaviors, my thoughts. I take
yeah,
accountability. I'm very responsible with myself. And I'm like, what can you learn from this? Or what was the lesson that needed to be taught so you do not
yeah,
repeat this? And so I would analyze it and write it down and or then I would take it to God and be like, Abba, help me understand what was the lesson in this? And then he'll tell me. And I was like, ah, got it. Okay. Won't happen again, Lord. And so before it ever happens, I'm like, oh, I remember not to do that. Don't do that. Let's do this instead. And it would always make my day be better because I'm constantly evolving and learning. I will never say that, hey, I'm done learning. I've learned everything. No, no, I'm always
mm,
going to grow and learn and give myself grace and mercy and constant love and say, hey, you can do better. You can be better. And there are times where I'm just like, Marley, my dog, let's go take a
mm.
walk. And I cry it out. And my dog is like, are you okay, mom? I'm like, I'm okay, baby. It's okay. I have to go through this. It's cleansing me. It's cleansing me.
Yeah.
You
No, tears
know,
are okay. Tears are okay.
tears are okay. And so is my life perfect? No. But it is amazing. Yes. Yes.
No,
Yes.
and your journey has been sort I can't wait to read your book. I'm very excited to read your book.
Thank
I
you.
always I always love I always call them like good underdog stories because it's like these triumphant returns from people that really you wouldn't think would be able to return from where they were, addiction, abuse, just these really hard path.
Yeah.
And to make something beautiful out of it, I think is just there's something in it for all of us, wherever you fall in the spiritual realm. There's something in it for all of us.
Yeah.
And if you could leave us with something today, what would you like us to leave us with today?
You are loved. You are wanted. You are needed. You are never, if there's any of your audience that is listening to this and you are suffering from something from the past, some form of pain, if you're gay and you think God doesn't love you, if you're straight and you think God doesn't love you, if you have suffered from addiction or betrayal or some kind of hurt, it's it's okay. And it's okay to not be okay. But the best thing I would say to you is reach out, because you cannot heal alone. I did not heal alone. I could not. There's no way in the world a single person could heal alone. Reach
No.
If you want to reach out to Fenix, reach out to me. I got you. Like if you're like, I just want to talk and not hire you, I'm gonna talk with you, because I'm not gonna let you leave, because it reminds me of that counter person at the counter at the VA who's like, stay right here. Like we have
Yeah.
you, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Like, no, man, I'm gonna walk you through this, and we're gonna get through this together, and we're gonna pray together, or I'm just gonna be right here helping you. And if you're like, hey, maybe can you just teach me how to breathe for next? I got you. Can you just help me just to calm down for a minute? I got you. Like we're gonna do these techniques together. We're gonna do them with grace and with peace. And I'm not gonna let you go until you're like, I can go to bed right now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, all right. And then will you call me tomorrow? And of
Yeah.
course, I want you to. I want you to call me. I want you to follow through with what I'm asking you to do. And if that means, can you hit me up now that you got my number? Can you hit me up? Yeah, I just want to check on you again. So you're not alone. Don't be alone. Don't heal alone. And seek out for help, because you're never too far gone. And know that you can always heal. And if you need to reach out to God, either A, write a letter and be like, Dear God, are you really there? And he's going to be like, yes, I'm really here. And you're going to write exactly that down. Or if you can hear a voice in your head, and I help people with NLP to actually connect with
Mhm.
God. So I'm telling you, like, God is a real thing. It's a real thing, and he'll manifest himself physically for you, not in a physical form. It's
Right.
a lot
Right.
of energy,
Right.
but he'll
Right.
manifest himself the way he can for you, so you can verify and be a witness for him. Be like, nah, man, God's real. So that's what I hope I can leave someone with, is that they're loved. They're loved unconditionally. Unconditionally.
And I don't think there's any more powerful message than that everyone is loved unconditionally, and that they belong here,
Yeah.
and that they're worthy, no matter how far gone they believe they are, they're not.
Yeah.
Um, and that there's always a chance. There always, always, always is opportunity for healing.
Yeah.
Just reach out. You can reach out to Phoenix. I always want to call you Phoenix. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's I always want. I just like I want. It's Fenix.
Yeah.
Fenix. Um, and you can always reach out to Fenix. And if you want to start to reach out, start by getting her book. Her book,
Yeah.
Loved Unconditionally, a spiritual memoir of trauma, addiction, recovery, and finding God beyond religion. Fenix is also on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. She also has her coaching website, and there you can find her book and you find more about her coaching, get the free consultation call. And I would urge everybody who's struggling, check out the website, learn more about Fenix, learn more about the book. It's one book can change a lot of things for anybody, you know.
Can I say one last thing before
Yeah,
we
yeah,
before we end this?
yeah.
So my book just launched 2 days ago. Today is June 8th. It launched June 4th. I'll say 4 days ago as of today. So
Hmm.
4 days ago. On my fenexshephard.com website, if you click on the resources tab, you can actually download a free resource book to go along with this book. Not
Oh.
only that, there's a lot of reflections in here. And I read it. I read this as an outsider because I bought my own book and I wanted to read it as an outsider. I tell you what, it was such a page turner. But not only that, it helped heal me again, and something that still wasn't healed. I read through my book as an outsider, and you can do nothing but fall in love with this author. Like, you can't not fall in love with her. And I asked myself, does it have, with the scripture, two legs to stand on? It has
Mm,
two solid legs to stand on. And I
mm,
was like, man, it was, I wrote it. So it took me 8 years to write it, because I wanted to
mm.
authentically write it for God, and,
Right.
and when I was fully healed. But man, it's such a good book. And I know I sound biased, but it's such a good book. It's such
No, I
a
mean
good
it's your
book.
story. It's your story. It's your journey.
Yeah,
You should be proud of it and you should want to share it with the world. And I'm happy that you have and that you are and that it's going to reach people that I believe books, music, whatever always finds who it needs to find. Um, use all the channels you can to get it to people, but I believe it's going to find for who it needs to get to. And so
Yeah.
please go check out Fenix. The book looks amazing.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing to talk to. You've been a wonderful guest, very high energy, very genuine, very warm, very kind.
Thank you.
Um, and I think that's a nice change sometimes what you see from coaching. There's a nice bright energy to you, which is I think when someone's struggling, you often need that, to kind of get you through these tough patches that you've been there, so you know what
Yeah.
those tough patches are. So please,
Yeah.
no, all those links to find Fenix are going to be in the show notes. Please check her book out. Please check her out. And as always, you can find me in the Call Her Cat podcast on all major listening platforms. The easiest way to connect with me in the show is the link tree, which will be in the show notes as well. And please remember, you don't have to carry where you came from and keep telling your story as Phoenix has. And you never know who you will help. And thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.